Okay, welcome to a new session of the Cooking Leprechaun. Today we are going to do what everybody loves to do, and that's carb load. We are going to make 3 recipes this time because 2 wasn't enough for the last assignment, even though we got 100 on that one. So we're going to go with 3. So we're going to do pancakes, blueberry muffins, and biscuits. And I have found out that in the long time that I've been cooking, that I've been doing all 3 of these wrong. So let's get into it. And the first thing that we're going to start with is the blueberry muffins. So back into sifting, we're going to sift our flour. And we're sifting all of our dry ingredients just to make sure that all of them are incorporated well. There's some sugar. I will tell you that if you're going to make this in the morning, I would get your ingredients ready the night before. It's just easier. That's what I did. That was baking soda. And speaking of baking soda and baking powder, both leaveners. And I always have troubles trying to figure out which one is which when I go to the cabinet. So I thought, why didn't they put baking soda in a can, thus soda pop, and baking powder in the box? I don't know why they didn't do that. No clue. Can't answer it. But just remember, it's the opposite. But that's the other thing that we're going to talk about besides the pastries that we're doing is leaveners. We're not using yeast for these. We're using baking soda, baking powder to cook them. And last week with the eclair, it was steam that we were using to have the different things rise. All right, now that we have the dry ingredients incorporated together, we are going to mix all of our liquid ingredients. So we have some milk, melted butter, eggs. Now, in baking, I found out that everything has to be like precise, and how you get 3 ounces of eggs. The way I do it is I mix the eggs together and then I pour them onto a scale to get my actual weight. Alright, so just gonna mix this up. Now I'm gonna question you. Obviously you won't be able to tell me, but how many of you decide to take the liquid, which is what we're gonna do now, pour it into your batter, and then decide to use the mixer? Well, that is where all of us have been going wrong. So what you want to do is you want to kind of fold this mixture in by hand, because you don't want to overmix it. If you overmix it, it makes your muffins dense, and it also makes them so that they won't rise as large as you want them to. So just get it so that you can get most of the dry ingredients mixed in, and you just want to kind of like fold it in, making sure to get everything off the sides. All right, so we almost have everything incorporated, so we want to bring the blueberries in. And one of the tricks that they taught us, you ever pour blueberries in and it sinks to the bottom? Well, they told us to put a little bit of flour and mix them around. And then that is supposed to help them stay where you have them within the blueberries, so it won't sink to the bottom. So we're going to put these in. And another thing that we make a mistake with is that we mix it too hard. So we just want to fold the blueberries in. So that we have it so that they'll be in every one of our muffins. And I think that is where we're going to leave it. Now, if you look at this, it is not purple, okay? And you have berries at the top, and it doesn't look like it's a smooth dough. There's a little bit of roughness in it. You can see a little bit of the fat and stuff like that. So that's what's going to help us get it to rise and to deliciousness. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them into, I have paper liners and this. So we're using 2 ounces. 2 ounces is actually not a cookie scoop, but an ice cream scoop. So it's a 1/4 ounce, or a 1/4 cup rather, that you'll need. So you can use that as well. And you're just going to put them into your fillings. And if you'd like the recipe for this, just put in the comments that you would like it, so that you know this will make a dozen blueberry muffins. And another trick you can do if you don't think there's enough blueberries in it, after you've measured out everything and put them in your paper cups, you can put blueberries on the top so that you'll have some more blueberries in it. Deliciousness. Okay, after looking at my muffins, I see a couple that would probably disappoint me because I don't think they have blueberries in them, or they have very few. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple in there so that everybody has some good and delicious stuff. All right, so the next thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put it in the oven. It's a preheated oven at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. The way you're going to check it is putting a toothpick down in the middle and pulling it out. It should be clean, and we'll get back to that right after they're done baked. All right, let's see the goodness and see if they turned out. I think they're gonna actually need a little bit more. They're not really, let's see. Well, no, that looks like they might be. I think they're done. All right, so the next thing we'll go into is tasting. Okay, well, as I was looking at the ones that I pulled out of the oven and said they were done, but they just weren't the type of color that I wanted on the top. So I put them back in. Well, before I put them back in, as you notice, there's 2 muffins missing. And I know we haven't done the official tasting, but the unofficial tasting was done by my daughter. So she already took 2. So we'll see how the actual tasting is. So anyway, I wanted them to be a little bit golden brown on the top, so I wanted to put them back in. So I put them in for another 4.5 minutes at the same temperature of 350, and now they're completed, so we'll get ready for the tasting. Okay, it's time for the taste test. I know, she already tasted 2. So now we're gonna go to the official taste test, and let's dig in. Oh, another thumbs up. We're doing well. All right, we're on to biscuits. Now we're going into our next area, which is biscuits. We have 2 different types of flour. And again, we're going to sift our dry ingredients just to make sure that it all gets incorporated. So there's our flour. Add salt, sugar, and baking soda. Alright. And everybody knows what the rule is about flour, that you always have to get it onto something other than the bowl that you want it in. And that's about done. Alright, we got that mixed. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to incorporate our fat, and on this we're incorporating butter. And the butter, I have it cut in small cubes, and I actually froze it, because the colder that it is, the better it is to work with, because our hands are really warm to heat them up, and we just want to get it so that it's just barely incorporated into it, because it's going to cook better. So get these all in here. And then again, you want to mix with your hands, and we're just pinching the butter, kind of like what we did when we did the empanadas. And we're just barely going to get it incorporated. It doesn't have to be like really fine or anything like that. That's again where we make the mistakes of over mixing. This is what you want your dry ingredients to look like. So go ahead and move down there. Alright, so you can see that it's not really smooth or anything like that. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our liquid, which is milk. And we're going to add that in. Now again, just like the muffins, we just want to get this stuff incorporated. We don't want to over knead. And when I made biscuits, when I make biscuits normally, before I learned about this stuff, I would mix the crap out of it. Had to be smooth, and I kneaded it as much as I could possibly get it to make it look like a bread consistency, and I found out that that's all wrong. The more that you knead, the more gluten that you put into the product, the more dense the product is. Okay, so now we have the milk entered into the dry mixture, and you can see that it looks like it's kind of clumpy. It's not really sticking together that well, and that's okay. It will, and you just want to make sure that it sticks and kind of gets together, and that's about it. That's all you want to do on mixing it. You don't need to knead it to get it to stay or anything like that. You just want it to be incorporated. Your biscuits will turn out fluffy. So we are going to roll this out to about 3/4 inch. And you can actually see butter in the dough. And I think that's about as far as we're going to roll it out to. Now there's going to be two things that I'm going to do. One is that I'm going to use a biscuit cutter. And there's a reason why. I used to use a glass. And how many of you have used a glass to cut it? because you didn't have a biscuit cutter. And we did this, and we put the cup down, pushed it, and then we twisted it. And then every time our biscuit came out flat. Well, there's a reason. Because when you cut it like that and you twist it, it pinches the sides. So it inhibits it from being able to rise. So this is our experiment today. We are going to put this one on here. It's cooked with or cut with the glass, and then the rest of them we're going to cut with a biscuit cutter. And basically it's just lift up and that one's done. Straight down, just easy cutting. Nope, that one might have messed up. We'll find out. And we're gonna go ahead and roll this together. Now this may cause it to be, the other biscuits to be a little bit more dense than the other ones because we're using the scraps of the dough. So just roll it out. And now the other thing that I learned, I told you I was going to tell you two things, is when you put your biscuits on the tray, you can do one of two things. If you want a harder biscuit, you can separate them by about 1 inch, or if you would like a flaky and soft biscuit, go ahead and let them touch. Now these biscuits should rise to I believe it's double itself, so we will see. And then back in this corner is our experiment to see what the glass one does. All right, the last thing that we're going to do before we put them in the oven is that we want them to turn out golden brown on the top. So we have some melted butter, and we're just going to brush the top. You don't want it to run down the sides, because then again you're going to end up sealing the sides, and you won't get it to rise. And this is just, I mean, it's extra deliciousness, and it'll help it golden brown for you. And to be fair, I am even going to put it on the test one so that you guys can see that I did the same thing for each biscuit, except that I cut that one using a glass, just to, I guess, prove a point to myself and to all of the people that don't think that you need a biscuit cutter or cookie cutter. You may not need one. You can get if you get like a plastic cup and you put a hole in the top where it has air, I mean the air is able to escape, then you can use that. But just remember not to twist. I think I missed that one, didn't I? All right, it's time to put them in the oven and see how they turn out. Okay, let's go ahead and see how they turned out. Well, they're golden brown. They are kind of lopsided, so I'm kind of upset about that. So I'll probably find out on the grade for that why they did that. And then as you can see, our experimental one it did not rise like the other ones did. So there is proof in the pudding. I might think that maybe the butter maybe went off to the sides on a couple of these, because some of them did rise really well and others didn't. So my self-critique, I'm just going off of that. So we'll see how it tastes. All right, we're into the tasting phase again, and here's my daughter, so she can go ahead and taste. And another thumbs up. All right, and we're on to the last, and that will be pancakes. We're going into pancakes, and pancakes uses two different types of leavener compared to the biscuits and the muffins. The two different leaveners is the baking soda, which it looks like powdered sugar, and baking powder that looks like fine sand. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sift our dry ingredients again to make sure that we get it all mixed, and as always, flour and everything goes all over the place. That's just the way it goes. Some sugar and our baking soda, and we'll go ahead and sift it. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to combine our wet ingredients. So the first thing we have is 2 eggs, and we want to beat the eggs. So all right, and then we're going to add our fat, which is butter. And we are going to add in buttermilk. And all we're doing is just getting it to be combined. That's it. And that looks good there. Set this aside. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the dry mixture and the wet mixture together. Now, this is where you and I have probably been making a lot of mistakes. Again, we like to get a beater or something like that to get it to be nice and smooth. Well, I was told during the class that if you have a nice and smooth batter, you did it wrong. So you just want to incorporate the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. So we're almost there. And there we have it. And what the instructors told us is that it would look like soupy cottage cheese. So, I don't know if you think that looks like soupy cottage cheese. Looks like it to me. So, believe it or not, we're ready to go ahead and scoop this stuff out. I am using a 2-ounce scoop, some vegetable oil spray just to lightly coat the griddle that I'm using, and I have my griddle set at 350 degrees. So lightly coat that. And we're going to grab 2 ounces of dough. And we're just going to place it on the pan. don't want them to be too close so they don't run into each other. And I think we can go with 3 on there and we'll be fine. And we're going to go ahead and let them cook. All right, what we're waiting for is to make sure that the pancake is done on the bottom side. And one of the ways that you can tell that is you can start seeing the pancake start to rise, so it's gaining in depth, but also there'll be air bubbles that are starting to form. Now, I used to think that the air bubbles on the side was giving me an idea of when it's time to flip, but it's actually air bubbles that are on the top, and you want the air bubbles that are popped, not just a plain air bubble that's on there, but ones that have actually started to pop. And then you can check for doneness, lift it up just a little bit to make sure that the pancake is actually browned before you flip it. And so right now, none of our pancakes are ready to be flipped. As you can see, now the bubbles are starting to form at the top and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and check the first one that it's already pretty slick. And so well, 2 out of 3 is not bad. I think the last one might be a little bit darker than, but as you say, and every time that we make pancakes, there's always sacrificial. Obviously on the other side, it doesn't take as long to cook because you've cooked it almost all the way through while you're waiting for those bubbles to form on the one side. So just probably about a minute or 2, and then the pancake will be done. All right, these are ready to come off. So go ahead and put them on the plate. And of course, the first side that you cook is always the best side to look at. So that's the side that you're going to want to put down for whoever's eating it for you so that they can see that beautiful work that you did. So the next thing we're going to do is go into tasting. So I just learned this from my wife, so I figured I would do it. So we have the final products in front of us. We have the blueberry muffin, which my daughter already tasted. We have the biscuit that my daughter already tasted, and she said both of those were good. The only concern that I have with them is they're a little light. I would probably like to get them a little darker, but also I don't want to leave them in the oven too long, then they become dry. And then the last thing that we have to taste is the pancake, and we did really good on that. We got a nice color on them. And so here's the finalized plate. And so now I'm not going to taste everything. She already tasted 2 of them for you, but I will taste the last one with her. So let's go ahead and dig into the pancakes. I would have to say that that's one of the fluffiest pancakes that I've had, that I've made. So I'll give it a thumbs up as well. All right, have a good time cooking, and we'll see you next week.